Hi, I'm Anna, and welcome back to the Level 3 Ironclad podcast. This episode kicks off Section 5 on fortified wines of the world. Section 5 is where Level 3 quietly shifts gear. Up until now, a lot of the syllabus rewards familiarity. You recognize a region, you remember a grape, you describe a climate. Fortified wines don't let you do that. They force you to slow down and ask a sharper question. When did fermentation stop? Because fortification is not a style, it's a moment, a decision point. Across sherry, port, and fortified muskets, producers are all adding spirit, but they're doing it at different stages of fermentation with different levels of sugar still present, and then placing those wines into radically different aging environments. The exam isn't interested in whether you can name styles in isolation. It wants to see whether you can track what was preserved, what was interrupted, and how aging then reshaped the wine's trajectory. That's what this section is training. These three chapters are often taught separately. They feel culturally distinct. Spain, Portugal, Australia, or southern France, different climates, different grapes, different traditions. But structurally, they are variations on the same underlying question. What happens when fermentation is stopped early and then treated differently? Every fortified wine in this section revolves around four core variables: when fortification happens, how much residual sugar remains at that moment, whether the wine is protected from oxygen or deliberately exposed to it, and how long and in what vessel it is aged. The tool is the same. The interaction between those decisions is what creates divergence. Sherry is placed first for a reason. It is the most structurally demanding fortified wine in the syllabus. Sherry teaches you dynamic aging systems. It introduces solera and criaderas, where fractional blending means you are never thinking in a single vintage but in averages and flow. It forces you to understand flaw is not a romantic detail but a living biological layer that actively protects wine from oxygen and shapes flavor. It makes you distinguish between biological aging under flaw and oxidative aging in its absence. And crucially, it trains you to reason in systems, in movement, in trajectory, rather than year. Sherry asks you to track what happens when oxygen is either excluded or embraced, when protection is maintained, when it is removed. It demands structural control. Then port arrives, and the contrast is deliberate. Where sherry diffuses age through blending systems, port often concentrates it. Fortification in port happens early, when fermentation is only partially complete. That timing preserves sugar and locks in intense primary fruit. Because fermentation is short, extraction must be achieved rapidly. So now you are reasoning about tannin, color, and structure under time pressure. After fortification, aging decisions split the category. Some styles preserve fruit and freshness. Others deliberately embrace oxidative development. Vessel choice: large vat versus small oak cask, reshapes oxygen exposure, flavor evolution, and ultimately market positioning. Port is where cause and effect meets commercial hierarchy. Age statements, vintage declarations, blending logic, quality intent. You are expected to understand which labeling terms reflect age, which reflect blending, and which signal status within the producer's range. Then, fortified muskets complete the arc. Here, the grape itself is intensely aromatic, so the tension becomes different. How much of that floral grapey character is preserved? How much is transformed through oxidation? This chapter exists to show you that fortification alone does not determine intensity or prestige. What matters is what happens next. Does the wine remain protected, youthful, fragrant? Or is it exposed to oxygen and allowed to deepen into something nutty, complex, long aged? Fortified muskets sharpen your understanding that oxygen is neither inherently good nor bad. It is a tool, a threat in one context, an asset in another. And price follows those choices. Some styles are designed for immediacy, others earn status through time and transformation. Section 5 should not be studied chapter by chapter as though they are unrelated traditions. It should be studied comparatively. At every stage, you should be asking yourself four things. When was fermentation stopped? What sugar level was preserved because of that timing? What did that decision sacrifice? Alcohol development, dryness, structural tension? And how did aging, vessel, oxygen exposure, length, redirect the wine's identity, its perceived quality, and its market position? If you find yourself memorizing style names without tracing those decision points, you are under preparing. By the end of this section, you should be able to explain any fortified wine through timing and aging logic. You should be able to compare oxidative and reductive outcomes across regions. You should be able to separate sweetness from quality hierarchy. And you should be able to write tight causal answers under time pressure without drifting into storytelling. This is where level 3 stops testing recall and starts testing judgment. Fortified wines are not about familiarity, they are about structural control. So I hope this helps kick off and understand this section on fortified wines. In our next episode, we'll begin with chapter 43 on sherry, and I'll see you then.